So the one other observation I would make about the Senate is that as of now, there will be 2 more women in the United States Senate. Right now, there are 9 women serving, with the addition of Hillary Rodham Clinton from the state of New York, Maria Cantwell all the way across the country in the state of Washington. There will be 11, and potentially, if we don't know how Michigan's going to turn out, but we still have Debbie Stabenow running against the incumbent Spence Abraham.
And my observation would be to remind everyone what Trent Lott, the Senate Majority Leader, said here in an interview on CNN a short while ago. He really doubts that the Democrats are going to go 5 up tonight in the Senate.
One other thing. If the Democrats pick up 3 of these 4 seats that are out, it becomes 50-50, and if Joe Lieberman and Al Gore do win the White House, Joe Lieberman's decision to run for the Senate and not cede the seat to a Democrat who would almost certainly have won will cost the Democrats control of the United States Senate. I cannot remember any election where so many things turned on one thin dime.
Is there any question if Joe Lieberman had given up that seat that the Democrats would have retained?
Attorney General Blumenthal I actually did some polling on this, would have been an easy victor over anyone the Republicans had put out. And I think, you know, if Joe Lieberman becomes vice president, becomes president of the Senate, the first thing he'll face is a fairly angry minority of Democrats who said, thanks a whole lot for costing us control of the Senate.
Yeah, and what Stu just said, if the Congress does remain in Republican hands, the House is in Republican hands, the Senate, odds are slightly in that favor, then that's really a vote for the status quo. Democrats thought they had a chance to break through. He said there was no sea change in that. It'll be interesting, however, if you have a Republican president, if George Bush wins, and a Republican Congress, this would be the first time the Republicans control everything since 1954. And I think a lot of Republicans would be overcome with excitement, irrational exuberance, and they might overinterpret their mandate if that's the outcome tonight.
Would it be so irrational?
I think it would be, given the closeness. I think the vote for Republican Congress is probably a vote for the status quo, and the vote for George Bush, if he wins, would not exactly be a sweeping mandate.
Well, just to point out, when the Republicans took the Congress in 1994, and some would argue they overreached and perhaps thought they had more of a mandate than they did, they handed a big club to Bill Clinton, and I think we even heard in what Speaker Hastert and Majority Leader Trent Lott have said is a cautionary tale to the more ideological Republicans to say, look, you know, this is obviously going to be a very close, evenly divided government. Whatever happens, let's take it easy.
And the guy who would have the job of doing that would be, if he's elected, President Bush, who would then be able to say, would have to say, I control the agenda and I was not elected to create a conservative revolution in the country, because he wasn't.
And in fact, that's exactly what Karl Rove said to me. I had a conversation with him earlier today about this very thing, and that's one of the things he said. He said if we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate, he said we by no means assume that, you know, we can get what we want. We're going to have to work with both
And quickly,
parties.
if Al Gore wins and the Republican Congress is reelected, that really does look like a vote for the status quo in very good times.
All right.
And you have to consider the influence of Christian conservatives tonight in this vote.
All right, we are...
And what they did.
Yeah, well, they mobilized a lot of voters for Governor Bush in some key states, like maybe Iowa.
We've been able to call the House of Representatives, will be remaining in Republican hands. We're still waiting on the Senate, and we are waiting for the White House. We don't know yet. It's 246 to 242. Much more when we come back.
The political ground war for control of the White House is still underway at this hour between Vice President Al Gore and George Bush. Look how close it is in the race for the White House. The Texas governor with 246 electoral votes. The vice president, 242. These are the states still out. We cannot call these states. Florida has 25 electoral votes, Iowa 7, Oregon 7, and Wisconsin 11.
Now, notice there that Bush needs 24 electoral votes. If Florida were to go in the Bush column, that would put him over the top. Gore needs 28. If Florida were to go to the Gore column, he would still need 3 more electoral votes from one of those remaining states.
In other words, Bush could also put this together without Florida. Bush could win Iowa, Oregon, and Wisconsin, and no matter what happens to the state of Florida, Bush would be the next president.
And speaking of Florida,
Yes.
We heard a lot about absentee ballots, and Mark Fabiani of the Gore campaign was saying, well, you know, those are seniors and that's our strength. As you pointed out earlier, it bears repeating, according to the exit polls, Bush is actually leading Gore among Florida seniors for all the talk about prescription drugs and Social Security. And where Gore is running big in Florida is among 18 to 29-year-olds, where our exit poll says he is running 56 to 38 ahead. So just to scramble this further, the notion that seniors in Florida are all kind of retired Democrats from the North ready to vote for Al Gore, according to the exit polls so far, that's not what is going on.
Well, what sort of margin do we know does Bush have among seniors in Florida? Bill, do we have that kind of information?
Yeah, Jeff has it right there.
I don't mean to step on Bill's toes, but I got the piece of paper.
You have the latest data.
Okay.
This is how Stalin beat Trotsky. He had the paper. 52-46 among, I'm sorry, Bush is leading Gore 52-46 among seniors 65 and over. He is ahead 50-48 among seniors 60 and over. And as I said, Gore running very strongly in the youth vote in Florida.
And we showed in Arizona that seniors helped Bush carry that state. There was a very heavy vote for Bush among seniors in Arizona. So the idea that Gore is just sweeping up seniors with his Social Security and Medicare, that Gore is sweeping them up because of fears about Social Security and Medicare, it's just not so.
Which means that a number of them are perfectly willing to entertain the idea of having that Social Security money invested. For not so much for them, but for the generations to come.
Or they might be voting for Bush for other reasons, like conservative views on values and a desire for moral leadership, and putting aside their reservations about his Social Security and Medicare plans.
Could this be the Clinton factor?
Well,
yes.
Let's hold off on the Clinton factor for just a second and say that CNN is making a call in West Virginia. The challenger, Bob Wise, has unseated Governor Cecil Underwood. That's in West Virginia. Jeff, the Clinton factor you were saying?
Well, I'm asking Bill, if seniors are not voting on prescription drugs and Social Security as much as the Gore campaign would have liked, could it be that for seniors, the personal misbehavior of President Clinton is more of a factor than in, say, other age groups?
Well, that's exactly what we found in 1998. Remember, when Republicans held on to Congress, most of the reason why they held on to Congress was because of older women, senior women, who appeared to have been dismayed by Clinton's behavior in the Monica Lewinsky affair, the fact that they disapproved of his values, and that drew a lot of them to vote Republican for Congress and save the Republican Congress. In this case, they may be voting for George Bush, that's senior women, for the same reason.
Well, the House is apparently going to remain in the hands of the Republican Party, and the Senate, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens. One guest that Larry King has is especially interested in the Senate. Back to you, Larry, and your panel.
Thanks, and we're going to wrap it up with this outstanding panel. You're right, Bernie. You're interested in the Senate, 49-47 as of right now. What is this saying?
Well, it's saying that the country's equally divided on the presidential contest and in the Congress. It also probably means that Republicans will keep the Senate, but by a narrow margin. It means Trent Lott will remain as majority leader, but his authority will be tightly circumscribed.
Is this tenuous, Ann Richards?
I think it is difficult to govern when things are this even. The question is whether there are going to be broad strokes. You know, are you really going to privatize Social Security with this kind of a margin? I think they're going to look at the exit polls on issues. How did the country feel about vouchers, for example? I think that'll guide, because when things are close, people are going to start paying real attention to what the public thinks.
Well, help me here. Is this change or not change?
I don't know. I was thinking of the poor people who have to write the newspaper headlines tonight. It truly is a nightmare situation, because to a certain extent, you have to tell the